Ah, yes, there they are. The victory horns. Early on Sunday morning here in the East Coast, and they sound for the man to your left, Tommy Aspinall, still the interim heavyweight champion. But on this graphic, the welterweight title is on the wrong man's shoulder. That's right. I think everybody will be remembering the name now. Belal Muhammad shocks everybody. Thumps up on Leon Edwards, wins a unanimous decision. The man talked his noise and he backed it up when it counted inside the octagon, delivered an incredible performance, and he is the new welterweight champion. He did it, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to talk about that and much more from a very interesting UFC 304 event. Welcome to the post-fight show. I am Mike Heck, and boy, oh boy, do we have a crew. I'm still in Atlanta, as is this man, Mr. No Gray Area, the Cannonball Kid himself, who was the host of the watch party at the Mishulin Mansion. He is the one and only Jed Meshew. Hi, Jed. Nice to see you again.
Man, seeing you digitally, Mike, instead of in person. Hey, that was weird, right? I said in the pre-fight stuff was like, look, 2024, it's not the year of the funny outcomes. We got half of it. Curtis Blades winning certainly would have also been funnier, but Belal Muhammad doing that, and this is apparently a little more controversial. A fun fight. The biggest upset of them all. The main event was not a dud. So we got a lot to talk about. It's going to be fun.
Well, that is your opinion. It is not the opinion of UFC CEO Dana White, but we'll get into that in a moment. But joining us as well, it's always an honor and a privilege to be joined by the great New York Rick. Post-fight. There he is. What's up, man?
Hello. Nice to be with you all. Is it possible that here on the East Coast of New York, it feels like I was in London? In Manchester. Because I think I'm dying. But we'll power through.
We will power through as we always do. New York Rick, I'll begin with you. Belal Muhammad is the new welterweight champion of the world. The man went out there. He talked his talk. A lot of people laughed at him. A lot of people didn't take him seriously. I thought some of the things he said was kind of egregious, and I know I'm not alone in that sentiment. But he went out when the lights were as bright as they could possibly be, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He was going to go out and beat Leon Edwards. He was going to beat him on the feet. He was going to beat him on the ground, and that's pretty much what he did outside of a few moments in this fight. We'll talk about what Dana White had to say about it in a moment, but what did you think? Your reaction to what Belal Muhammad did tonight, shutting up a lot of people?
I'm happy for him. Good for him. I think he got a raw deal this week. I think a lot of people were kind of not aware of what he's doing for one reason or another. Like, it felt pretty obvious to me that he's trolling and not serious about any of this stuff and trying to draw attention to the fight, and successfully, I would say. Like, maybe there are people that tuned in that wouldn't have otherwise, but maybe not. Maybe it just amplified and made the fight feel a little more intense, for lack of a better word. But I'm happy. I'm happy that he ratcheted up the stakes and then was able to successfully do it. Whereas Leon was trying to kind of like dismiss him at every turn. And it turns out Belal was better. So yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, like, with the benefit of hindsight, looking back on it, it feels like maybe Leon shouldn't have been as dismissive as he was toward Belal Muhammad, because he was a real threat and dominated that fight. Like, there was one sequence in round 3 where Leon Edwards had Belal Muhammad's back, and outside of that, he didn't have much until the very closing moments of the fight for Belal, when he landed that really nice elbow and busted him open. But great performance for Belal. If you just look at the resume, like, maybe this is something people could have seen coming, right? Like, he was a significant underdog, but if you look at the resume, like, he's got some names on there, and especially in the fashion that he took out Sean Brady, I think maybe this is not as big a shock as it would initially seem, but it's also 3:00 here, and I have the benefit of hindsight. But yeah, happy for Belal.
Yes. Jed, I'll go to you because we got your immediate reaction on the watch party, and we just kind of got your reaction then. It's not exactly the same. Like, we're not giggling and laughing and this is not the Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya fight, just like the post-fight reaction of it all. But a lot of this is kind of similar, right? Where not a lot of people gave this guy a chance. A lot of very smart people, fighters included, Israel Adesanya being one of them, was just like, I just don't see a path to victory. I think this is Leon's fight to lose or win. It's basically on him. So I'm going to ask you a similar question that we sort of talked about in the fallout of Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya. And I'm certainly not trying to take anything away from Belal Muhammad. This is a question that was asked to Dana White, so I'm going to pose it to you. In the fallout of this fight, do you look at this more of this was all Belal Muhammad, it was his night, he did the thing, or do you look at it more as a lot of people felt with Israel Adesanya, just had an off night, wasn't his day, and he just kind of caught Strickland on a bad night? Is this a similar situation? This is more on Belal, or is this more on Leon Edwards for you?
It's a great question. Also, dogs. They're two of them.
Dogs.
Right there.
Sleeping.
It's a really good question. I am going to default to the position of credit to Belal Muhammad, right? Like, this was the biggest fight of his life. He, like Rick said, amped up the stakes beforehand such that it was. He invited that pressure onto him. And in the biggest moment of his professional life, 5 stars, like, showed out, looked unbelievably good. Basically from the opening bell, had to fight through some adversity, but I would say this is the best performance of career, and it came on the biggest stage in the biggest moments. You got to give the man just a ton of credit for that. If you want to come the other side, I don't necessarily think you're wrong. It's just not what I'm going to choose to value. But on the one hand, all full credit to Belal. On the other hand, Leon looked bad, and we're not them. We're not in the cage, so it will be pretty much impossible for us to ever kind of know how much of Leon looking bad was being great versus how much was Belal being great. Leon, having an off night. He gets on the mic, says, I felt weird and tired tonight. I never got going. My body wasn't there. And, not saying directly, but I think, at least for me, my mind immediately jumped to, we were fighting at 5 a.m. This is a very particular thing. That was one of the sort of storylines before then. Did that play a role? What happened here? So I think if you want to say, man, Leon beefed that one, I can't say you're wrong. But to me, the story of this night, when I take away something from this night, it won't really be the Belal Muhammad thing. It'll be the co-main. We'll talk about that later. But, like, the story of this fight is Belal Muhammad. You guys know me. I hate the phrase silence the haters. I think that is very stupid. Belal gets that. Like, Belal gets to carry that mantle with him and be like, yeah, a lot of people doubted me, and wrong. Like, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Remember, I didn't even promise I was going to finish him because I knew that I can't finish him. I'm immune to that, but I can win a dominant decision over him, and he did just that. So full credit to Belal. I think I certainly just want to come from this of, hey, man, stand up, talk your shit. It's your moment. Shine, baby.
Yeah, and kind of going back to just thinking about how this fight played out and how the scorecards looked, Belal closing out that first round the way that he did, landing that uppercut and kind of wobbling Leon Edwards. Gigantic moment in this fight. Huge. He doesn't win without that final 30 seconds. He loses a split decision on the card. So it's pretty wild to go back. I think so. I have to go back. I know the cards are kind of all over the place, but it didn't seem like there was any doubt despite what Michael Bisping was trying to tell everybody on the broadcast. But I'll go back to you, New Yorker, because we teed this up a little bit. A lot of people happy for Belal Muhammad. A lot of people were entertained by the fight. Jed talked about it as well. He called this leafy greens the entire build. Ended up playing out a little more fun than he expected, and I think a lot of other people did as well. One person who didn't seem very happy about this was Dana White. Didn't seem happy putting the belt on Belal. He certainly didn't seem happy at the press conference, at least for the first 10 or 15 minutes, talking about this fight, not calling it not a barn burner, not really putting over his new champion in a lot of ways. What did you make of all that? I mean, he kind of dumped on most of this card in general. Muhammad Mokaev, he sent directly to the PFL, but he didn't put over the new champion here. So what did you make of how Dana reacted to all of this?
Yeah, at first when the press conference opened up, I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Like, why are you doing this to Belal?" Then it kind of became clear to me that everybody was the subject of Dana White's ire today. Like, he was just mad and didn't like what had happened tonight. Um, Said he's never giving out increased bonuses again, and you can thank the fighters of UFC 304 for that. No sold Belal, sent Muhammad Mokaev to the PFL, was just generally snippy with the media. Dana White was not having a good night for one reason or another. Maybe Bilal contributed to that, but I don't know if it was. I don't know if we're getting Dana's genuine reaction right now because he seemed to be in a general bad mood. But to your point, it was an opportunity to put over your new champion, and it didn't seem like he was interested in doing so. I'm not surprised. Like the fact that it took Bilal Muhammad this long to get a title shot speaks to how they feel about him. Um, so I'm not surprised that that would be the tack that they take, but let's see what happens when, he's building the fight for Shavkat versus Bilal or whatever the next opportunity is, and maybe you'll have some more complimentary thoughts.
The only other thing that stood out from all this talk was, and I'll get your reaction to what Dana had to say as well, Jed, was Dana was asked about Leon maybe getting an immediate rematch. And I think we all agree that that just doesn't need to happen. But Dana basically already said, like, yeah, we already have something else being worked on. So it seems like they're already shopping this Shavkat fight, one would assume already, which wouldn't surprise me, especially if Dana isn't overly thrilled with Bilal being the champion. I think a lot of people would favor Shavkat to win that fight. But again, a lot of people favored Leon Edwards to win tonight. So who knows? Maybe Bilal can do what he wants to do and take out this new generation. But I don't think you're surprised by Dana's reaction, but what did you make of it?
So my initial reaction was frankly, oh, of all the people, Dana is the one who is the most not pumped about being awake at 6 a.m. And frankly, I get that one, man. Like when we do these shows, and like right now it is 3:20 East Coast for me. I'm tired. I've been up since 6:30 this morning or whatever. We've had a full day, had a full day of work. We did this. But usually for these shows, I can get up. I've got some energy. This is happening. And it's ends at 4:30 for us. Like if we were doing this pod 3 hours from now, I gotta tell you, you might be getting a little grumpier Jet about some things. So like I can kind of get that from him. It is tough because it's his job. You'd like him to promote a little more, but hey, we didn't get a Dana White John Jones rant this time, so that's something new and different. And I think this was just what was to be expected. I don't think that they dislike Leon. I think they don't care about Leon, and so him being champion, not Leon, sorry, Bilal. Like him being champion now is not something you don't look at Belal Muhammad and say dollar signs. Like that's just not doing anything for anybody in this regard, and so he's going to be a little demure about it, and that's how we ended the night. So I don't know. It's okay. I would obviously want better from him, but things could have been substantially worse than ended up being. Though some of his other decisions we'll talk about as the evening goes on. No fight of the night for a couple of very good contenders. The Mokaev thing I think is absolutely critically hilarious. So yeah, I think he was just cranky, man, and I get it. I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass on that.
Fair. Okay. Well, Shavkat's next, more than likely, so we don't need to really go down that road. It's just a matter
It
of
seems
when.
extremely likely they're looking at Shavkat for when's the Abu Dhabi card? Like October?
You think they'll do it that quick?
Well, I think if they can get Bilal to agree to it now that he's champion, and I know he got busted open at the end, but Abu Dhabi, Bilal versus Shavkat, that fight feels like it fits very much in that. And maybe you can double up with Islam Arman, Shavkat, Bilal, just stack them. And it's a really big Abu Dhabi card. I don't know if they can get that turnaround that fast for Bilal, but I think that they will at least make an effort and see if it works.
Yeah, I think you can throw that in there. I think that's a perfect spot for it. Bilal will be over huge. He'll look like a star over there.
Yeah, be a
With
monster.
Islam, yeah, be huge. If not, co-main
Habib's
the
in the corner for both of them.
yeah. If not, you can co-main that at MSG and be under second title fight under Jones Stipe. It's fine. I'd love to see it this year if we can make it happen. But I think that's the direction everybody feels that this is going. Jed, I'll go back to you. Story of the card for you was Tommy Aspinall. Tommy Aspinall. Dude is just electric, man. Comes out, seems like a genuinely good dude, and he can fight his ass off. He's a monster, man. He's so quick, he's so athletic, he's so powerful. He's just on another level. When you talked about Ricky Simone for a hot minute after he beat Jack Shore, you said something that always resonated with me. It's like he's playing a different sport. It just feels like Tom Aspinall is just playing a different sport than everybody, and he proved it again against a really good fighter in Curtis Blades.
Yeah, he is a different dude than every other heavyweight competing. You know, like theoretically in this imaginary land where John Jones is a heavyweight, maybe John Jones is also playing that different sport. We'll never know. We'll just never know. But like, you know, John Jones in his prime was playing a very different sport than every other light heavyweight that ever set foot in the cage with him. When you see like dudes who are truly transcendent, truly like, oh yeah, they've got the sprinkle of magic dust about them. Tom's one of those dudes, man. Like Francis Ngannou, at the peak of Francis Ngannou arising, was a terrifying monstrosity of ferocious power, but he was playing the same game as everyone. The sliders were all the way in his favor, but like he was doing the same thing everybody else was doing. Tom is at 1.5 speed to all of these dudes, and he hits real hard too. It's not that he is fast and doesn't like. I think we are underrating how hard this man hits because we are so enamored with the speed with which he moves. But every time he touches anyone at all, they just fold. It's not like he hit Curtis Blades with an 8-punch combo and it was so fast. He hit him with a jab and then Curtis crumpled and then he gave him the 8-piece to finish it off on the ground. Like, this dude is so fast. He is so light on his feet. He hits so hard. We know that he has a good ground game, though. There's still plenty of things we don't know about Tom Aspinall. Like, this dude's the best heavyweight in the world. I would love to see him fight John Jones. Will never happen, but I'd feel very good about picking him to beat John Jones. I, at this point, would feel pretty solid about picking him to beat Francis Ngannou because Ngannou hasn't, been in a cage fight in 3 years or whatever it is. And God willing, it would be awesome if we get to see those fights. Instead, we're just going to have to settle with watching him do this to every dude in the UFC because I genuinely don't think there's someone currently on the UFC roster who will last longer than 7 minutes with him.
Eric, Rick, your thoughts on his performance, and as a man who, let's just say it, you're a John Jones guy. You put over John a lot, and you've earned that right. You've been along on this journey with John Jones for a long time.
Just me and John, peas in a pod. Me and Johnny boy, yeah.
There's an 80s sitcom poster with you back to back near a tree that is probably out there somewhere. It's just John looking back at you, just like, oh, there he is. There's my guy, Rick. Is John Jones the best heavyweight in the world right now, or is Tom Aspinall the best heavyweight in the world right now?
I'll say it this way. I don't know. And that is enough to make me want to see a fight, right? Like, I don't actually know. I kind of go through peaks and valleys with this whole John Jones at heavyweight thing anyway. Like, there was when Dana White was talking about Francis Ngannou and John Jones and Francis Ngannou were talking about fighting each other, I kind of thought that Francis would win that fight at that time in history, right? Like, I thought that version of Francis, the one that had just knocked out Stipe, was just going to be like, John doesn't have the power, I don't think, to keep Francis off him. I don't know now, years later, if that is still true, right? I don't know if we're getting the same version of Francis, so I'm not as sure about that. But I was pretty confident that version of Francis was going to beat John and pretty much anybody else who didn't have power to keep him away, like we saw with Cyril Gane. So it's not this consistent feeling that like John is like the best heavyweight ever or John is the best fighter at all times. Like, it kind of ebbs and flows, and it really depends on like who's around. His longevity is one of his best keys. Now, how often he actually fights during that time that he's around is questionable. So you could convince me pretty easily that Tom Aspinall is the best heavyweight right now. Do I think that John could beat him? Yeah, probably. But some of that is me not knowing enough about Tom, and some of that is me not knowing enough about John. Like, I feel like a lot of the intrigue of this fight is we haven't really seen Tom Aspinall tested. The only times anybody's had success, it's been like landing a few punches on him. Like that is what we've really seen in Tom Aspinall's UFC run. Like he gets hit sometimes. That's kind of it. Is John Jones going to be the type of guy that's going to be able to like one shot KO him? No, it's just not John's game. Would Francis? Yeah, potentially. Like that's kind of the guy that I would imagine that you could capitalize on those kind of openings at times. But do we know? I don't know enough about Tom. Like, and that's why I think the John Jones fight is so intriguing, because I want to see somebody who offers something different. I want to see somebody push him. I want to see him tested beyond, hey, let's get into a striking exchange and I'm just a better athlete than you, because he is always going to be a better athlete than everybody. That's just what heavyweight looks like. Tom is a physical specimen. He is a supreme athlete. And so I think the idea of I don't know is enough for me. Like, I don't know if John Jones is. I also don't know if Tom is. And I'd like to find out.
I know. And here's how I know. Because I agree. I do think John Jones can beat Tom Aspinall. Like, if they fought, it would not in any way surprise me if John Jones. Here's how I know Tom Aspinall is the best heavyweight in the world. Because Tom Aspinall is the only heavyweight in the world who's beating all the other heavyweights and fighting them all. John beat one as a terrific win. He just absolutely steamrolled Cyril Gane. Great win. I'm not taking that away from him. He has not fought since then, which is over like 16 months now. And he is fighting a dude who, and shout out to Mookie Alexander for this one, pulled this on Twitter. The last time Stipe fought, it came a month, 1 month after Tom Aspinall fought Andrei Arlovsky. Like, that's just not going to work, man. Stipe hasn't won a fight in 4 years. It just has no bearing on being a relevant heavyweight right now. I am more than fine with them doing this for business, but John ain't the best heavyweight in the world because he ain't fighting the best heavyweights in the world. He could have been the best heavyweight in the world his entire light heavyweight run, because like there's a really good chance he would have beaten any of those heavyweight champions, you know? He just didn't do the fighting. He's not doing the fighting now, and until he starts doing the fighting, Tom Aspinall is very clearly the best heavyweight in the world because he's the only dude competing against other top heavyweights.
Jed, if you could put a percentage number on it. Dana White doubled down at the press conference that Tom Aspinall was going to fight the winner of John Jones versus Stipe Miocic, which will probably be at MSG in November. Percentage number 0 to 100 that this fight actually happens, that Tom fights either of these two guys in his next fight.
I'm reminded of a scene in the film Zero Dark 30, which isn't like a great film, but it is a film. It's a very rewatchable film I like a lot. And the lead character, whose name I can't remember, is in the room, and they're like, give me the percentage chance that Osama bin Laden is in this compound. And she's like, 100%. And then all these dudes stare. It's like, okay, fine, 95, because I know certainty freaks you out. I would say 0%, but because, you know, there's nothing certain in life, I'll go 1% chance this fight happens. I have been firmly of the opinion that John doesn't really care about this fight. And again, I actually don't blame him. Totally understand his reasons for not doing this. I think if Curtis had won, John would have beaten Stipe and tried to fight Alex Pereira. I do not believe that is on the table. I believe John is going to beat Stipe Miocic and retire in the cage. And that's just where we'll be at, and that'll be okay, and we can all move on with our lives. I will be truly flabbergasted if John decides to take this fight on, and I'll give him all the credit in the world if he does, because that's a big-ass test for him, you know?
Same question for you, New York Rick, and I'm going to add a little caveat to yours. Since you and John are tight, you're bosom buddies in a lot of respects. You're the Paul Heyman. You're the Paul Heyman in this situation. You are his advisor, his confidant. Let's just put you in this position here. So first, percentage of this fight actually takes place. And on top of that, if you are Eric Jackman, the confidant of John Jones, are you advising him to fight Tom Aspinall next if you beat Stipe?
I'd give it a 60% chance at the moment. I think there's a
Wow.
real I think there's a real chance that it happens. I think Tom has made himself. I think John Jones gave him a task. John Jones said to Tom, "Go out there and make a name for yourself. Do something to make me interested." And in the time since saying that, Tom has done just that. Tom has done things to make John Jones interested. Um, he's not fully there yet because at the end of the day, like it's not going to be the thing that John Jones goes, "Oh, this was my biggest fight that I've ever had." But it will be a big fight, and I think it's due to the credit to Tom that he's been able to do it successfully in this short amount of time. So 60%. Would I advise him to take the fight? No, I'd say like I'd really push for Alex Pereira. That feels like a bigger fight, and that also feels like something that is highly favorable as a matchup for John Jones. So if I was advising him, I would be begging for Alex Pereira. But yeah, I think the Tom fight happens. I really do.
Rick, I hope you're correct. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think, like, outside of what the UFC would do, like, would allow to happen, do
Yeah.
you think that shame would allow, like, would the public accept John being like, I know Tom's the interim champion and dope. I'd very much like to fight the former middleweight, current light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira. Do you think that is something they could even, like, John could say and not be ridiculed to the core of the earth with? Because I've, like, in my reflexive answer is, if John comes out and is like, beats Stipe and is like, Alex Pereira, I want to fight you, while Tom Aspinall is sitting cage side, I will not rest until this man feels shame. But I don't
Yeah.
know if that's just a me thing or if the rest of the world will be like, Alex Pereira, hell yeah, let's do it.
I think a lot of people will get on board with the Alex Pereira, let's do it. Just like Alex is a bigger star than Tom is at the moment. So there will be a lot of people who just want to see it because they want to see Alex kind of chase the greatness. I think it's about the packaging. Like if it plays out the way you say, right? If John Jones goes out there and beats Stipe and then gets on the mic and is like, Alex Pereira, I want you, that could be potentially problematic. But I think the way he has done it so far is to be a little more coy than that, right? To be like, what do you think's a bigger fight? Alex Pereira or Tom Aspinall? He's going to play. I would advise him, and I imagine that he would play a game that's a little more coy than that. That is not as transparent and direct as being like, I don't want to fight you, Tom. I want to fight you, Alex. I think it would be more this. Look, the same way he talks about the Stipe fight, right? We all know what the Stipe fight is, but he has wrapped it in this package of the greatest heavyweight ever. I am going to fight the greatest heavyweight ever. Whatever narrative he is able to tell about it is going to be different than the reality of it, which is, yeah, you're fighting washed up Stipe Miocic in a fight that nobody cares about. There's a spin. And so I don't think the move would be to get on the mic and say, I want to fight Alex Pereira. It would be to just plant the seeds for it and let those seeds grow. You water that and you foster. And he's already done that, right? We saw the tweets 2 months ago, whenever that was, saying that he would rather fight Alex than Tom. And I think he could continue that very easily.
If he somehow does that, I might have to get chickens can't be goats tattooed on my forehead. Like, I cannot imagine like a more transparently coward maneuver. And it's like, nah, I'm good, Tom. We set.
It'd be brilliant. It'd be brilliant if he did.
I mean, it would be incredible heel work and just the most infuriating thing that's happened to me in years.
Okay, I agree with that, right? Like, obviously, the heavyweight fight that people want to see is that fight, but there's also an objective
I'd
truth.
take Francis if you could have that.
Sure,
I'd also take that.
The objective truth, though, is Pereira versus John is a bigger fight. Is a bigger pay-per-view draw, is a bigger moneymaker. And so there is a path that, even though it is cowardly, it is also objectively good business. You know,
Oh,
it is a good business thing. Whereas, by the way, I don't think you can say that as much about Stipe, right? Like, I think this idea that like this is like a huge fight is not really kind of like reality, even though there's some legacy conversation on the line. Alex, you can sell that.
I've been extremely clear that there are two wolves inside of me, and one is I absolutely recognize everything John is doing is 100% correct from a business and personal standpoint. I also just 100% hate the shit out of all of it, and it annoys me to no end. Absolutely, if he can find a way to fight Alex, I do disagree on the Stipe thing. I think Stipe is pretty clearly the best business move because I think he gets to say the legacy thing, and it's a
Yeah.
risk-free fight. Like Stipe, I cannot stress to you enough, just has no chance to win this fight. He is old and has not fought in 3 years. Like, look at him walk around. It's not. He's an old man who is a full-time firefighter. Like, he's just not going to beat many people's greatest fighter of all time. So, like, I get everything, and a piece of me will respect it, but like I don't even need to see John versus Tom, but if John is going to fight, then I need to see John versus Tom. Otherwise, you've had an unbelievable career. Just walk away, man. It's fine. So few fighters walk away on top. You do that and let this be Tom's time to shine or whatever, because that is the other part of it that no one will care about, and it's not, the onus is not on John to care about this part of it either. But by hanging around and doing this, you are taking away from Tom Aspinall. This should be his moment to be the undisputed champion and the guy to carry this weight class forward, and you're doing this vanity project that is detracting from him, unless you do give him the opportunity. And God willing, you're right, Rick, because if 60% is there, hell yeah, let's make this happen. Like, that would be a sick fight. I would love it.
Love it. Would love to see it. You can also just give Tom Aspinall the friggin' belt and just do John versus Stipe. Like, who gives a shit?
The legacy
Like, no
belt, it's
one's gonna.
fine.
Yeah, no one.
Well,
Like,
can
this does not
I
do
need to,
one less pay per view buy if you do it that way.
I need to ask this though. I hear this all the time,
Mhm.
but I don't understand it. Why would the UFC willingly have one champion instead of two champions? Why would they do that from a business perspective?
I don't think it truly matters to them. Like, I just don't think that this matters. Like, I don't think it matters at all to have John Jones be your heavyweight champion.
Hmm.
And I actually do think that it would give, like, instead of having to do the interim thing, like, you just be like, yeah, that's our heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall. He's dope. I don't think it matters in a major way. Like, I don't think we're talking millions of units of difference here, but I do think it is subtly mattering. And the part that bothers me, and again, this is a very stupid reason, I freely acknowledge this, like, Tom Aspinall now has one title defense. It's an interim title defense. If Tom Aspinall gets elevated later, or God forbid has to do another interim title defense against Volkov or Gane or whatever, where does he, like, how does the UFC then negotiate this if he gets two more defenses? Does he have the most heavyweight title defenses of all time? Because Stipe has three, but they were all undisputed, whereas Tom is, like, pretty clearly the actual champion, but he's got this weird interim thing. Like, they've just invited a thing for something silly, for strictly for the vanity of John Jones. And, like, I don't. John Jones already has enough accolades. I don't think we need to give him more of a vanity boost. Like, let him fight Stipe
Yeah,
for the King of All Worlds belt or whatever. I don't care. And let Tom do the heavy lifting of being a champion in a weight class.
I get all that, but in practical terms, they've now gotten a heavyweight title fight tonight,
Oh,
last
here.
Saturday, and then they will get a heavyweight title fight in November without Tom Aspinall having to compete. They're just getting multiple heavyweight title fights.
They are. But, Rick, let me tell you very specifically, because I just thought of this. If that's for the real heavyweight belt and not the interim, Tom is top billing on this card. And
Yep.
Dana's probably happier. That event probably does a little bit better, frankly, and we all leave better because instead of a disappointing, because Leon losing the home crowd, but a good fight, we end the night with Tom killing a dude, and that's always dope. Like, I mean,
They
they
could
could have put him a top billing
they
anyway,
could have
but they're
done that
never going to
anyway.
do that. But they're never
They could
going
have
to
done
put
that.
an interim champion over over the thing. That's just not really how they get down. So, like, again, I don't think it's major unit mover or huge, but it's one of those things that irks me and does have, I think, real consequences, even if they're not like huge.
I agree with you that there's consequences. There's consequences in terms of the legitimacy of Tom's title, right? Like that there is a question that is unnecessary, right? I believe he's a champion, but there are many who would go, no, he's the interim champion. But the offset of that, the counter to that, is that you get multiple heavyweight title fights. Like there's no reason to strip John. It just does not.
Theoretically, we do. John actually hasn't done this yet, so
yeah, when he fights in November.
Theoretically,
just call him the co-heavyweight champion. Like there you go. Just take the interim off. They could be the co-heavyweight champions, and they could both just defend their co-heavyweight belt. Like let's just do that, and then Tom can get real title defenses. It's a real title fight. Tom could be a main event as a somewhat disputed champion, but not interim. He gets elevated in his own way, and then him and John can just like defend their belts. Like in a not interim type of way. So we'll see what happens over the next several months between these two guys and Dana White and the UFC and the heavyweight division and where it all goes. That took quite a bit of time. I do want to get to the piece because it is almost 4 a.m. Eastern. Obviously, we're going to talk about Paddy Pimblett. I'm sure people have questions about that. $200K bonus from Dana White tonight. So good for Paddy Pimblett. I think he made a giant statement. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Good win for Gregory Rodriguez, pulling off a slight upset over Christian Leroy Duncan. That was a fun fight. Arnold Allen back in the win column. Pretty fun fight with Giga Chikadze. One other thing I do want to talk about, because I think this is the other, Paddy's obviously a big story and we're going to get questions about this. We should talk about Muhammad Mokaev and Manel Kape. That was a huge story heading in. That's a huge story coming out based off of this press conference and everything that had happened. The history between these two guys, Manel and Mokaev, are fighting each other at the PI. They're fighting each other at the Fighter Hotel. Manel Kape gets sucker punched by Muhammad Mokaev under the story of let's take a picture for our Muslim brothers. And then he gets punched in the face and an all-out brawl breaks loose. Mokaev can't even step on the scale at the ceremonial weigh-ins because they're about to fight there. And as soon as Mokaev gets into the octagon, 50 security guys come into the octagon and separate him. And as they say in the pro wrestling world, and then that damn bell had to ring. And these two officially had a fight, but it was certainly not to any level that anybody expected. And then in the end, Muhammad Mokaev said, I want a title shot. I want a new contract. Goes to the post-fight press conference and says he was talked to by UFC officials that said, we're not going to re-sign you if you bring that wrestling heavy style that you've been bringing over these last few fights. And then Dana White was asked about all of this, and Dana, being sarcastic and a little bit grumpy, said, yeah, because we tell our fighters how they need to fight each other. But then basically got real and said, matchmakers don't like him for a myriad of reasons. And then when the great Jose Youngs asked Dana White if they're going to re-sign him, Dana White said essentially PFL is going to get themselves an undefeated fighter. So basically sent him off to the PFL. And maybe this is grumpiness and maybe this is real. So New York Rick, your reaction to all of this, Manel Kape versus Mokaev, the fight, how it all played out, and the fallout of all of this.
Yeah, an uninspired performance by both of those guys, right? Like, obviously, so man, there's a lot to unpack here. So obviously, they've sold us a bad blood rivalry. We're gonna kill each other type thing, and then just did not deliver on that in any capacity, right? Just fell very, very short. Not bad, right? Like they're not bad fighters, and they didn't have a bad fight. They just look listless. They just did not look like two guys fighting for number one contendership. And so much so that the guy who won the fight, who seemed like a no-brainer number one contender, is no longer with the organization. That's how listless, that's how uninspired that fight was. Because if he comes out there and has a great performance, he probably is fighting Pantoja. Or maybe he does one more, but for all intents and purposes, he's probably fighting Pantoja. If Kape was more impressive and won that fight, he's probably fighting Pantoja. So it was all on the line there, and they had we talked about earlier Belal Muhammad kind of like ratcheting up the stakes and then meeting the level. Like they ratcheted up the stakes and just stayed down here and didn't even come close to it. So really weird kind of fight. Again, like not bad technically, right? Like it's an odd kind of style matchup where you have to be a little bit careful if you're on both sides, because the other guy is better, much better in one realm or another than you, and so you have to be careful, which I can understand. But just with so much on the line there, you would think that they would have had tried to have a better performance than that. Then as far as Dana White's, screed against Muhammad Mokaev, it was bizarre. It's like we've seen wrestlers before. I'm not sure what he's done that's so particularly offensive. Now, granted, this is on the back of him admitting that he asked Cop to take a picture and sucker punching him, and then they got into a fight at the PI. But we've also seen kind of problematic fighters before. It's not new. I don't know what it is particularly about him that has rubbed people the wrong way. The matchmakers, Dana White said, don't like him. But he's really talented and he's a good fighter. PFL doesn't have his weight class, so I don't know if he's going to PFL. I know Dana's kind of said that by default, but they don't have his weight class, so maybe he becomes a bantamweight and fights for Bellator. Yeah, bizarre. Just bizarre for a guy who is one of the talented lighter weight fighters and somebody that an organization could use. Yeah, I can't think of another example of something like this. It's very bizarre to me.
It's crazy, Jed. Like, Mokaev goes out there and just melts Cody Durden in his first fight. Lived up to the hype. Everything about this signing, people were so excited. He delivers a performance. Goes out in his next fight. A lot of people weren't happy with it, but I was super impressed by his second fight too, because he just wrecked, I think it was Charles Johnson. And then from there, it's just kind of tepid decisions or late finishes against guys he was like competitive against, but it was like a minus 1,200 favorite against. And then the Tim Elliott fight, battled through a little bit of adversity, was down 2 rounds and gets a finish. Like, you and I were both super high on this guy. We saw him early and said, this dude is, if he fights for a belt, he's probably going to win it. He could even be a 2-division champion. And now how the tides turn in this sport and in the UFC. This guy is 7-0. Dude he's really, really good. There's like just a second gear he just does not tap into. And then just all the shenanigans behind the scenes, the sucker punch of Manel Kopp that's being widely reported. Eric Nicksick's told the story publicly a bunch of times at this point. Just the UFC just willing to let this man go. Like, probably the number 1 contender for the title. And they're just like, yep, bye-bye. We're all good. This is just so bizarre, is it not? It's crazy.
I'm going to say something that you don't hear me say all that often. Totally agree with Dana White. More than fine with what's happened. Also, shout out to Dana White, because again, I don't say that often either. He could have buried Mokaev. Like, he could have been like, this dude, no one, and he buried him to some extent, but like, and it is a better dagger. It is a twisted knife of PFL's going to get a very good undefeated fighter. Like, he didn't say they're going to get this pile of turds that I'm going to throw off and they're going to pick. This guy's very good and undefeated. Bye. And like, this is right. And like 100, I honestly 100% agree with Dana White for a couple of reasons. First, Rick, I will disagree with you. That fight was bad, man. And I know, Casey, you're on the 1s and 2s. You'll probably pop in here at some point, but like, I liked it. That fight was terrible. They landed 40 combined strikes or something over 3 rounds. It was primarily a staring contest. I'm more willing to give Manel Kopp a pass, though not a full one. Both parties have blame here, but very clearly for Kopp, like, as soon as he tried to punch real hard, Mokaev was just going to tackle him, which is fine. I'm not blaming you for a smart fighting style. I am blaming you for sucker punching a dude and then like almost getting into fights with him 8 times where you were going to punch him when there's security around. When you're locked in a cage with him, all you're going to try and do is get on those hips and never throw a punch. Because to me, that is the crux of why I am fine with this. Yes, Muhammad Mokaev is undeniably one of the 10 best fighters in his weight class. And in some worlds, we'd like the UFC to be pursuing all the best fighters at all points in time. The reality is they're not doing that. And by keeping Mokaev with them, what he has shown to me through his time, and again, you and I are super high on him. I have been very high on him from day one. I believe that if he fought Alejandro Pantoja tomorrow, he would have a credible shot at becoming the champion. Unbelievably talented. Not a compelling fighter for a vast majority of fans, even guys like me. Like, he does some cool shit, but a lot of the times he will not hurt opponents. He is averse to causing damage to people. He will positionally grapple, and then if he can, find a submission. And that's an okay way to compete. This is not a sport. This is sports entertainment. He is not doing the second part of this. And he's 23. It's fine. Let him go. He can go to ACA. He can go to Ryzen or whatever. He can, when he says, hey, there are consequences to me behaving like a total jackass this week. Because, like, again, big fan of him, like a big supporter of where he was going. I deeply, deeply disliked him now after this week, just being a huge asshole the whole time in all of the worst, most petty, awful ways. Like, okay, what are you? How are you a fan of him? Like, unless you are a family member after this week, what is there to gravitate to? There's not, and so you don't want to give him a title because then that dude's your champion. That's tough. But also, if you match him up with anybody, he's probably going to do the same thing. So you're between a rock and a hard place, and you don't have to deal with this. You can just wash your hands of this and send him away, go somewhere else. Maybe he does great. He finds his own KSW and thrives. He never comes back, and that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Look at Kyoji. He's doing terrific. Or maybe he
Builder
goes.
freeze.
Yeah, a lot of people can do that, and that's fine. Or he goes off. He gets some seasoning. He's still a very young man. Like, he has maturing very clearly. He has maturing to do. Maybe he does that. He goes off a couple of years. He's still one of the best guys in the world. He gets a little better, gets a little wiser, settles in. It's like, hey, I'd like to come back. And then you can have that conversation, and you're not having to deal with all the other shit that he is bringing right now that is not part of your business, that is not good for mostly anyone. And, it's not bringing dollars. It's not like he has a huge fan base that he brings with him. Like, cutting him, I would say cutting him is extreme. Being like, hey, I'm going to cut him after that. But, like, just be like, I'm not going to renew your contract. Yeah, I wouldn't either, man. Like, just straight up, a very good fighter, but he beefed this week and this fight so unbelievably hard. And he's got a little growing up to do. And I hope he does, because super talented. Think the dude can win a belt. But yeah, I think it'll be good for him to have a change of pace, change of location. And so one of the very rare times I'm like, yeah, totally on board with Dana. I think this is probably correct.
Not surprised by it. Dude's clearly talented, but he's got to grow up. I know he's only 23, needs a little bit more life experience, but got to grow up, man. This is the big leagues. You just got to act better, and you got to be better. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
But can I just ask, like, I agree with Jed. I agree with you. I ultimately think, like, yeah, he's been an asshole all week, and kind of just like generally, like, he has an inflated sense of where he is in the company, and he's going to be the youngest champion ever, and all this stuff that he's been saying, while simultaneously like putting like not that impressive performances. Like, even the finishes are coming late when a guy is just completely done, and he's already a minus 600 favorite in the fight. So I'm with you, but like, haven't we seen bigger assholes? Haven't we seen, like, why is it that all of a sudden there are consequences for this stuff when there never seem to be any other time? Why is it specifically now, specifically him?
The bigger assholes are drawing money.
I'll say for two very clear reasons for me, Rick. One is exactly what Mike said. The bigger assholes who have done things, they are bringing a very clear thing. Truly, the only thing Mokaev is bringing is that he's one of the best fighters in the world, which is great. But that's not the game we play in the UFC in 2024, realistically. But honestly, the thing that, like, I could have lived with it. It would have been trashy, and I would have been like, the thing that genuinely put it over the top for me, where I was like, F this dude, get out of here, is his post-fight press conference. When he owns up to sucker punching dude, and his excuse is the most sophomoric, like, teenage boy answer. well, he bullied me and I'm not going to be bullied like Alex Perez, so I sucker punched him. Like, dude, are you an infant? Like, grow, like, you're a professional athlete doing shit, and then you can't even keep that same energy in the cage fight. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just get the hell out of here. Take some time off and do something else. Like, again, I wouldn't have cut him. There's like after this whole thing, I just would not re-sign him because I don't think he's bringing anything that I value right now. Like if he was just undeniably the best fighter in the world, maybe I'd think about it. But he's not. He's very, very good. I can't do it right now, man. You got to give me more than what you've done.
I can live with that. I just feel it just feels maybe I'm being too sympathetic. Maybe my heart is bleeding too much, but like, I don't know. We've seen bigger assholes. We've seen guys not, kept around who have done less or done more rather. Like if I'm being objective, Manel Kopp is blown weight in addition to all the same shenanigans that he's participated in.
Wouldn't have a single issue with you cutting Cop either.
Yeah, like just
you want to bounce him? Okay with that.
But this is my point. Like it feels like they were making a statement here, but I'm not sure what the statement is. Like I get like you could make a bigger statement, right? You could say, "Hey, we're cutting both of them." That now you're making an actual statement. Now you're saying
they are not cutting him, which is clear. Dana didn't come and proffer, "I'm cutting that dude because I hate him." Yeah. He was asked about him and said, "I'm not going to re-sign him." And to me, that is a very clear delineation. I think cutting him would probably be a little over aggressive. I just why would they re-sign him outside of he's one of the best fighters in the world?
That tends to be enough, but in this case, not. And I get that.
Is it?
I'm okay with it.
For the last with it. 5 years, has being one of the best fighters in the world been true? They didn't sign Saladin Parnasse. They haven't signed Renier de Ritter's like one of the 10 best middleweights in the world.
They didn't sign Roberto Soldic when he was a free agent.
They're just they don't play that game anymore.
Yeah, see me.
I know we would like them to just be a meritocracy, but they ain't gonna do that.
The list that you would come up with, I don't think is very long.
Well, that's because most of the good fighters in the world are already in their monopoly.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like they kind of are in that business. It's just that there's a handful that you're like, I wish they had these ones too. But like ultimately, Rick, that is their business.
But to me, Rick, I think maybe I glossed over this a little bit when I was going through because there was a lot to cover. The other part is they're a monopoly. They get to get him back kind of whenever the hell they want to. So there's just no. If the answer is the next 2 years, you go do your not particularly engaging style of fighting somewhere else, that's fine. And then we'll bring you back when you're better. Like it's the benefits of being the king. They can get him whenever the hell they want him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair.
Yep. Just a crazy situation, and we'll see what happens. All right, let's bring Casey in. Let's take a few questions. Definitely want to hear from some of you guys. And then, we'll go for a little bit, and then we're going to go pass out somewhere.
Hi, Casey. I want to hear from you on this. I want to hear from you on this fight. This is what I came for.
I got to hear the defense of this one because I was let down, my man.
By the way, this is a safe space because I'm with you. I don't think the fight was that bad from a technical standpoint. Like I thought it wasn't great. It didn't excite me, but it was fine. It was just like a regular, not great fight on the card. But the build up, obviously, I feel like it fell very, very short of expectations, and the fact that it could have been number one contendership that's inexcusable.
What was the build up from the UFC? They didn't build up anything. They didn't bring him to the press conference. They didn't do anything. It was all them.
Yeah, they built it.
The UFC is not the thing that's building. The fighters built this.
They built it.
That's actually worse. The UFC selling me a bill of goods and the fighters not delivering because they weren't part of it. Okay, they weren't part of it. These two dudes got into more of a fight pre-fight. When Cop got into the cage, they got into more of a fight than they got in the fight.
Because pre-fight, there are no rules. Then they became a sport fight. When you sport fight,
and then they hugged. And then God, I hate a motherfucker that hugged somebody after all that shit. Y'all hug at the end. Keep your energy.
God, the first 2.5 seconds of that fight were awesome. They just like came at each other. They sprinted at each other. They each threw like a combination, and then that was it.
There's so many things.
That was everything.
I feel like there's so much to talk about. I feel like we could do a whole podcast on this fight, to be honest. But it's interesting though.
It'd be better than the fight.
Yeah. Okay. Dang. So much to talk about.
There is a very real chance that Muhammad Mokaev did not throw more than or land more than 10 punches. Like they don't track that number; they just track targeting. And like he landed 11 headshots, and a couple of those were kicks. Like he might not have like landed more than 10 punches in that fight.
Like, how different is
you don't hate that dude that much?
I scored that fight for Cop. Does it even matter?
I scored it 30-27 for Cop.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. We all scored. Everybody scored that fight for Manel Cop.
That's the crazy part. Like Cop won that freaking fight too. Like it was a bad decision. That's what it kind of like. We're not even talking about that.
Honestly, even crazier is that that's some of the worst refereeing I've seen this year. And
oh my god!
It's line item 12 of that fight.
That's what exactly I'm trying to say. Like this fight has just so much to talk about. Like, and it was an early prelim, but
technically it should have been like a 30-23 with all the points that should have been taken from Muhammad Mokaev in that fight.
Dude,
like immediately, the pantsing should have been a point.
Seen. Don't make me enforce the rules. What was the exact
Don't make me enforce the rules. Me enforce the rules, young man.
Don't make me do my job. Don't make me do my job.
He yelled so
he said that
at him.
He said that in a cage fight where that is literally his only job. It is. Oh my god! What
and
a
then.
night. And we didn't talk about that until 20 minutes into this conversation.
This is your only warning. Do you understand me? Okay. 30 seconds later, he watched Muhammad Mokaev poke Manel Cop in the eye and did not stop the action, nor take a point. It was so frustrating to watch.
What a sick ass sprawl though from Cop when he had his eye poked and then Mokaev shot and I was like, that was sick. Okay, I get the fight. The fight did not meet expectations. I get it. It was still, like Eric said, it was still a good fight, technically. I enjoyed watching it. But, yeah, it wasn't a fight I wanted to see, but I did like it. And I'm just bummed that Jed's right. I get why they didn't re-sign him because of, I guess, his behavior. And I can see that. But also, like someone pointed out, like George Masvidal sucker punched Leon Edwards backstage, and like we celebrated that. It's just a weird thing because Masvidal makes him a lot more money than Mokaev, and that's just the reality we're in.
He had just iced Darren Till like real bad, right before that. So like it'd be weird if they were like, "Hey, you sucker punched him, and now we don't like you anymore," because he was about to make a shit ton of money for them.
It was self-defense.
I would argue. I would
they
truly
also threw
argue
him in there with
funny.
Ben Askren next. They also threw him with Ben Askren next, and a lot of people thought Ben was just going to tackle him for
setting him up for that.
That he flying kneed him in record time, and then it's hard to deny a guy after that.
I would argue that no matter what happened tonight, outside of Mokaev flying knee KO, like to steal Gamebred's way, a flying knee KO on Cop, I think he was going to be not re-signed anyway. Like, I don't think that this had much of an effect. They probably just were determined that they were not going to re-sign him. They were hoping he'd lose, and then he didn't, and they were just like, whatever, we're still going to.
I think that's important to note, too, because the UFC, like Paddy, he signed before he went out there.
They would have tried to sign him already.
And we know the UFC does not like that. We know that. So I just think this was just, they were trying to get out. UFC just wanted out of the Mokaev business. And this
which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine.
Very possible. I will also come from the other side and just say there is a world where he does resign. Dana has said an infinite number of things that are not true. While I would,
this is very
while
true.
I would not, by any stretch believe he's resigning, Dana saying something in a post-fight press conference is very far from gospel. So, maybe he does come back.
That'd be sick. If
tomorrow
Mokaev was like, I signed a new deal with the UFC, let's go, baby.
Took a pay cut. It's fine. I'm going to do whatever. But also the part,
Mokaev, oh my god,
I don't know what Dana was talking. I have no insight. But if Mokaev is hard to book because he is particular, that's just another reason that they probably want to be out of the business, because he is also probably asking for money.
Mokaev
So-
posted a photo with him, Dana, and Hunter Campbell eating breakfast tomorrow. It's going to be the best. I will
deeply fun.
giggle.
And you just like it's like the caption's like good business with like a handshake emoji and a bag of money.
And they're hugging. Everyone's hugging.
And
Oh my
then Dana White's on Instagram Live later, and he's like, "This guy's an absolute savage. He's fighting Alexandre Pantoja." And then everything just goes on.
He's 7-0 in the UFC. This is going to be a badass fight.
Is Kaya Sakura the biggest winner of tonight?
Yeah,
Did nothing
Mokaev
and
or
probably
Tyra.
got a flyweight title shot.
yeah, Tyra. It's true.
Him and
It's
Tyra
one of
have
those.
to-
Tyre or Kai. Yeah. Tyre or Kai. All right.
The
Questions.
bags.
All right. What we got
It could be
here?
cop. Hell, they could still do cop.
They
He
could,
won
you're
that
right.
fight.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They could do cop.
Dude,
okay.
I had so many people, because I tweeted something. I had so many people being like, "Oh, well, the short grab didn't really he already has had the takedown. Shouldn't take a point for that." I was like, okay, well, one, that's insanely stupid. But two, you don't think the short grab gained him an advantage? What about the short grab and the eye poke and the low blow and the other one? How many fouls does one man need to get an edge? Just cheat your ass off. It was so rampant tonight.
We've been saying this forever. And then Mike Beltran also refereed the main event, and Leon Edwards grabbed the fence 18 times in the fight, and
It's
wasn't
not
called once. So
it is not cheating if they don't enforce it. And the referees are all cowards. I don't know why they refuse to enforce rules. It is their only job, and one of them specifically was like, "Please do not make me do my job." He said that. That's a quote. Please, I do not want to do my job. I say that in the privacy of my own home to my friends, not when I'm mic'd cage, when I'm reffing a fist fight.
I he yelled it too.
Don't make me
do my job.
God damn it.
don't make me enforce
do
the
my job.
rules. Oh my god.
Super chat.
God, the refs were so bad tonight, man. They were just all terrible.
Spencer, still in Barcelona, up at 10 a.m. for this boys, running on Bing Rips. Early breakdown on Belal versus Shavkat. Belal has more of a chance than I previously thought. Paddy versus Hanato. Love that fight. Sure, for the Paddy thing, Hanato is booked against BSD. You could go that direction. I think there's lots of directions. You can cancel it. It's the main event.
Yeah,
it's the main event.
No one's going to UFC Paris for Moicano. BSD will be fine enough. Put somebody else's ass in there.
You could do BSD versus anybody, and that'd be the same.
I think so too.
I don't think Moicano's the draw there.
Just pull him. The Paddy Moicano thing, there's juice there. You can still do it even if Moicano loses, but then you're probably gonna have to wait longer. I say pull it, man.
That's the main event. Yes.
That's the main event.
Is that a fight night? I guess it's a fight night. Yeah.
Moicano Moicano might not want to get out of it since it's a main event, but yeah, I agree with Jed.
Moicano wants money, so you just have to give Moicano money, and he'll do it. He's been very clear about his incentive structure.
On our chat, I threw out my Paddy suggestion for his next fight. Do we even want to talk about that?
What did you throw out?
You're saying Michael Chandler, isn't it?
Paddy versus Chandler.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Michael Chandler's going to keep dreaming that dream.
Gets Connor Light.
Michael Chandler, I was going to say, he gets... Well, I guess Ian Gary is technically Connor Light, so he's he's like a third variation.
I would do... I mean, I'm going to give my Otno suggestion now. I very rarely say this on any of these programs. I actually agree with Ali Abdelaziz. You do him versus Benny Dariush. That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to do that. Give him a step up.
That could
it's a fight Paddy can certainly win. I might actually pick Paddy to win that fight. If he loses, no big deal. Then he can fight Moicano. The Moicano fight is a back pocket fight. You can go to that anytime you want, and it's still going to be big.
You guys think Poirier would do it?
No, not a chance in hell.
No.
I mean, he would win that fight. He was very clear. I don't want to end my career on a loss. Well, this is a win over a very popular guy. It'd be kind of dope.
I don't think he views him as a peer. I don't
Number
think
15.
Be
Number
interested.
15. It's ranked.
Nah.
Undefeated. 7-0 in the UFC. Come on. I agree. I
Nah.
don't think he would, but like,
He
come
just
on.
I
Come
don't
on,
think
it'd be fun.
If
I
the
don't
UFC
money-
also
the
wouldn't
mon-
book that fight.
Yeah, the
he's saying Michael Chandler just got here. Like, what would his feelings on Paddy? Like, I just
Look.
he doesn't view him as
To be fair, Michael Chandler has not won many fights in the UFC. Paddy has won 7 of them.
but no.
Michael
Yeah,
Chandler
I mean,
has won 1? Has he really won 1 fight in the UFC?
Hooker is his
Is it
only
just,
win.
is it just the hooker?
No,
Tony Ferguson.
He beat
Oh,
Tony.
what? Sure, okay.
knockout of the
Paddy
year.
also beat Tony.
Knockout.
Yeah.
And then he had 3 like fight of the year contenders.
If Michael Chandler wasn't waiting on a better fight, I'd dig that fight. I think that's awesome. I would watch that. I'd watch the hell out of that. But
I don't
obviously,
but they would
he
also
would-
give
he would
Chandler they would also give Chandler a title fight too.
Yeah,
they
I
would-
mean, that's what's going to happen. No.
We didn't talk
Better
about
bring
that,
him on.
boys. Pour one out for Islam because he doesn't get to pursue a welterweight belt now that Bilal's the champ. Tough scenes for him today.
I think
Are you sure he could?
I believe
he
I
I don't think he's
heard.
gonna. I don't think he will do it.
I believe
Yes,
I
he would.
heard him. I believe I heard him say, or Bilal's. One of them said, "Yes, we would fight." One of them.
Islam.
Bilal said unequivocally that they would not. I don't. I can't.
So then it
speak
must
for
have been
all
Islam
parties
because
involved.
one of them said they
It was
would.
Islam.
Yeah.
Islam said he'd do it for sure.
Yeah.
And in the pre-fight
Uh,
media stuff, Bilal was like, "Yeah, no, I trained with him. We would never fight."
Sorry.
I will also say,
Islam's-
after watching what Bilal did, I would have picked Islam anyway. I would feel unbelievably good about Islam beating Leon Edwards after watching that fight.
Oh man.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
there's so many fighters that have come out and said like, yeah, Islam will be the champ at 170. I couldn't imagine a world he wouldn't have beaten Leon. Like
Y'all know
I-
my hottest take that Habib would have beaten Israel, and I'll die on that hill. Like I will live right there. Like yeah, Israel would have been suffocated the same as the rest of the motherfuckers.
I was willing to go up to 170 with
Yeah.
Habib. I was willing to say anybody at 170 or below. He
I wasn't
beats.
even concerned. Kamaru was the only like marginally difficult test, and I was still
Yeah.
like, Habib will get him. I was
Yeah.
like, Izzy, we're done. There are some middleweights who might be too big to be tough. Izzy, he's done. He's not even a big middleweight. Cooked. Get smashed, homie.
I don't know about that, but I'm with you on the 70 stuff.
Early predictions for Belal versus Shavkat Nurkic.
I think Shavkat fucking gives it to him bad. I don't like his chances against Shavkat. I think you're just dealing with like the level of athleticism, the level of like just freakish power, the level of like just speed and power is going to be too much for Belal. Like Leon is a good matchup for Belal because what Leon does is like crisp technical striking and not just being an absolute savage. And so you can counter that, right? If you're able to stifle him, like he's not going to just be able to outmaneuver you in those situations by being a better athlete. You're gonna have some advantages there. Shavkat is just a buzzsaw, and I just don't see how Belal, who is not like an A+ athlete, is match up well with him. Can't see it.
Yeah, and we gotta say, Belal, he did break the curse, or not break the curse, but he broke the 35 and over winning tonight, and he's gonna be older when he
All
fights
welterweights.
Shavkat.
Yeah, but he's 170. The curse doesn't really fit to 170 because like those are the like outliers anyway. But I guess sure.
Yeah, but
like, oh yeah, no, I would.
Does any-
I mean, to be fair, I comfortably picked Leon Edwards to beat Belal and could not have been more incorrect. But I would comfortably pick Shavkat to kill Belal because I would have picked Shavkat to kill anyone. And yeah, I don't know. He's
I feel like
the best welterweight in the world, man.
there was
I don't
nothing
know what to
Belal
tell
could have done tonight that would have really changed our Shavkat prediction, I think.
There's nothing
Yeah,
Leon
if
could
he-
have done that would have changed my
If
prediction.
he had eaten like some monster Leon shots, like a flush head kick, I'd be like, okay. But like, no, he is not a weak chinned dude.
Mhm.
It's just one of those dudes has fight finishing offense and the other doesn't. And I will always defer to the guy who can win a fight instantaneously and out of nowhere than the guy who is going to spend 25 minutes. Do you know what I would really like to not do? Have to fight Shavkat for 25 goddamn minutes. It's a really bad question. Don't ask it of yourself.
All right. A few more questions.
Will Aspinall have to defend his interim title again? He's so desperate to get a real shot. He wants a 4-man tournament at UFC 308. By the way, shout out to Tom Aspinall. Love that idea. It is even more of a fantasy world than any of us could have ever lived in. But, I mean, tremendous idea. If the UFC would never do it, but boy, if they ever did, it would be pretty fucking cool.
Will he have to? No, I don't think he will have to. But could he? Yeah, possibly. Like, I think it really depends on him. If he wants to wait, he will be next in line, but I don't know if he'll want to wait. But the ball's in his court. I don't think he will have to do anything.
I do not believe he will even get the opportunity. I don't think they would put him on MSG with John and Stipe.
No,
particularly not against Alex or whatever. And so
I could see a more
I
realistic
believe John
world.
is retiring at MSG.
I could see a more realistic world where it's not like, hey, we're trying to set this up as a tournament type thing. It's just, hey, we need a main event and Cyril Gane needs an opponent, so you're going to fight Cyril Gane, and that type of scenario I could see playing out. And Tom goes, F it, I'm the champ, let's just do it. Like, I could see that scenario, but I don't think anybody could eat. Like, I don't know what it would take, but I can't think of anything conceivably where somebody would jump ahead of him. So, yeah, I don't think he has to. He could sit out if he wanted to and get a title shot. But to Jed's point, maybe he sits out and then all of a sudden John Jones is like, see ya. So, no.
I hope I'm wrong and you're right, Rick. I think John is done after November, and so then Tom gets to be the champion, and his next fight is a defense of the undisputed heavyweight title, probably against Cyril Gane.
I think John has so much. He's been underpaid for so long. He really has an opportunity to make some good money right now for the first time, like nearly ever. Just take it. Just take the opportunity. I think he will. I think he ultimately will. There will be enough money and enough on the line that he'll say, yeah, maybe this new breed Tom Aspinall guy is going to ice me, but maybe I'm going to kill him and become a legend forever. And
I think that would just be a terrifically bad business decision on his part. I hope he makes it. That's inviting a ton of risk.
Yeah.
Unless, here's where it would be cool, John. John, look, we've had our differences right here. Let's talk. Because you're a big chicken, and so that's tough for me. I don't dig on that. But what you can do is you can say, UFC, here's what I'm offering you. I'm going to kill this old firefighter who you're putting against me for reasons that no one understands. When I'm done killing this old firefighter, I would like to fight 2 more times for you. I would like to fight Tom Aspinall, and I would like to fight Alex Pereira. You give me all of those, and I promise to give you those as well. But if I get through all of those, if I get through all 3 of those, the light at the end of the rainbow, if it's still even an option, then I want the last fight of my career for you to do the one thing you've never done, and you to pony up and let's fight Francis in a co-promotion with PFL, because I'm going to kill that man too, and I am an untouchable god if I go Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira, Francis Ngannou, mic drop. I would respect the hell out of you, John. Do that. Use your leverage to find a way to fight Francis. Otherwise, get the fuck out of my sport.
He's already an untouchable god, by the way. So, that part's already done. Who would Tom fight if both Stipe and Joe?
We just discussed this. I'll fight the Gane Volkov winner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One of those
when
guys.
When are Gane and Volkov fighting?
Abu Dhabi, October at the
heavyweight has so much
fighting at Abu Dhabi. Why are they not fighting in Paris?
He must just not have been ready. But
because Gane's not going to fight if it's not the main event, and they already booked a main event. So
yeah, okay. We've solved this. BSD, you're out because Moicano is going to go fight Paddy. Now we're going to move that to Paris. Boom. BSD is a co-main against pick a body. I don't give a shit.
Does heavyweight have the most replacement talent. Like they just have a bunch of guys who are like they're nearly good enough, but they're not really good enough. But then they get these opportunities that just kind of like come their way because the guys who are good enough are on the shelf for some reason. It's just it's a very weird division. But there's two guys who are really good, which I like.
Spencer, after this, you think Tom would have a chance on the feet with Poatan? Might be the one super fight we actually get, though I want Poatan versus Ankalaev first, like Jed. Of
He has
course.
a chance. He wouldn't
He's a
at
big,
all do
fucking,
that.
massive, quick hitting dude. I mean, Israel Adesanya colded Alex Pereira. So,
I gotta
gotta
believe
think
that
Tom
Tom
can
hits
do it.
harder than Izzy.
Yeah.
Gotta believe Tom hits harder. But here's the thing: he
I
wouldn't
think
do
that's
it because
almost
he already said it. He said I wouldn't. I would tackle. He said what Curtis Blades can't in his ever loving mind figure out. Yeah, why would I possibly stand with that dude? I would tackle him instantaneously. Like no, like he would just do that, and that's like. I know that I'm gonna certainly be in the minority. I have no interest in Tom versus Alex right now. Like let's see the Ankalaev fight. If Alex just spends the whole fight shutting down every takedown imaginable, I'm a lot more open to that. But if Ankalaev just tackles his ass to the ground, I don't need to see Tom do that. He'll do it too.
Yeah. If Pereira beats Ankalaev, he can go up to heavyweight and fight whoever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, I
But go
won't
beat
fight it
that
at
dude
that point.
first.
I'll still kind of
fight
think
that
it's
dude
dumb,
first.
but I won't fight it.
Yeah.
I'd rather see Tom versus Alex. That's fun. Let's do it.
I like
Do you like truly? Is that fun because it's a big spectacle? Do you honestly think that fight is fun? I think that fight is over instantaneously.
like every Tom fight.
Yeah.
No, I think it's very different. I think that fight is over in the same way Curtis Blades was like, I would kill that man. I would shoot a blast double and then end him because I am substantially larger than his ass. Like, I think, yes, it would end quickly, and it's not that fun to watch Alex Pereira get bodied by a man who weighs 30 pounds more than him.
I
He's
like the
heavyweight.
dice roll. I like the gamble of if Alex could somehow do it. So yeah, I enjoy that. I like that.
I get it.
mind
From a spectacle standpoint, it's obviously very spectacular. But also, if they do that for an interim fucking belt, and then Alex is the first 3 division sort of champion because he pulls it off.
No, because you know what they would do. They would
God.
strip John Jones fucking immediately if he won that
Oh,
belt.
if they're
They'd be
going to
like,
strip
he's-
John, I'm all in. Let's do it.
They'd be like,
This-
John, sorry, Alex gets your belt now. Unfortunate for you.
I'm fully on board if they're going to strip John as part of this. I'll pay that tax. Sorry, Ankh. Just keep waiting, buddy.
We have one more super chat, but I want to get to this real quick because we didn't really talk about. We talked about a lot about Tom, but can we talk a little bit about Curtis Blades?
RIP Jed's and Sean's bets on that 0.5 takedowns by Blades.
Do you guys know how
What
many
was-
takedowns Curtis Blades has attempted in his last 5 fights?
2.
One.
Wow.
Attempted
Jesus.
1 takedown. Also, Curtis Blades dropped a statement. I'll briefly read it. Sorry, guys, I got greedy when I touched him early, and I threw out the amazing game plan my coaches came up with that would have worked. I'm sure of it. Dope. If I had wheels, I'd be a wagon.
But it's
I
funny
bet
because
your coaches got you back to the room and were like, motherfucker, we talked about this.
But
We talked about how every time you're in this spot, you then get knocked the fuck out because you refuse to do the thing you were good at. And then you went and did that shit again. You did that shit again. Come on, man. Learn a
What-
lesson.
Why do you think that is? Why has he avoided the wrestling so much to the extent that it's almost like a tick? Why is that happening?
I kind of suggested like because like the same reason we crap on Mokaev, same reason we crap on Belal before tonight. Like we just don't want to see that. These guys are prize fighters. They got into this to beat people up.
I don't think that's fair because
I
when
watched
Curtis
this man
takes people
tackle Derek
down,
Lewis 18 times. He can't tackle his motherfuckers. Come on.
And,
No,
and
but-
he lost that fight. He tackled him 18 times and he still lost.
no, but
Yeah,
he
but
also
all of his
takes
other
people-
fights, he's won doing that.
Yeah, he takes people down and he throws some really nasty ground and pound and things that like Mokaev doesn't necessarily do. but also, like, that's your path to victory. Like, you don't have an option to stand and trade hands with Tom Aspinall because we saw that. Like, anybody could have told you that if you did that, you were going to lose that fight. That is the outcome. There's no
His
world where
corner,
you win that.
reading between the lines, his corner explicitly told him that,
Yeah,
hey,
there's no
our plan
world.
is to shoot and take this dude down.
It is bizarre. It is a bit bizarre.
Chris Dawkins just ruining one man by being so bad that Curtis Blades could bolt him on the feet and just hex him into forever thinking he's K1 Curtis.
I
God
mean,
damn it.
to be fair to him, he's not wrong that like he touched Tom and
Yeah,
it was a good
dude,
shot.
we all went,
Sergey touched
whoa,
him
you know?
too.
And this is what I'm
Sergey
saying.
touched
Like
Tom.
people have touched Tom. That's the only thing we've really seen.
I've
I
seen
just
him eat those shots.
yeah, he's
And I
eating
got
them
to
quite
tell you,
nicely.
based on empirical evidence, I would suggest that if Sergey Pavlovich touches Tom and didn't end his existence like a goddamn teleport, like I don't think you, Curtis, are going to do it when you hit him once. Like
No, bad
it's
bad
just
game.
like it is honestly just a total lack of discipline. Like I don't care if it's cartoonish, just immediately shoot a takedown. Like the first action he should have had was jab takedown, maybe double jab takedown, but like just see,
That's the
maybe you get him.
that's the old Jalton Almeida. Jalton
Yeah,
never is afraid to shoot those takedowns. He's
yeah.
all up on that.
It's simple. Like
See
you
what
don't do
Belal,
the Ben
look what
Askren
Belal
where I'm
Muhammad did.
telling you beforehand, but you just
Yeah.
jab into a takedown. Maybe it works.
Belal Muhammad had Leon Edwards hoisted to the sky like 15 seconds into that fight. That was like the very first thing he did. He charged across the cage. They threw a couple
But
punches, and then Belal
it was set
hoisted
up.
him to the
It was
sky
set up
and
with
dumped him.
but but Curtis can't set him up, and the fight's over by the time he tries to set it up. Bilal
But
set it up. I guess Bilal's just defense is way better. I don't know. I mean, I got to
oh,
rewatch the fights.
Curtis has atrocious defense, which is like actually
I
the
think,
really
I,
critical part.
yeah.
But here's the thing, Casey. Like you've trained, you've been around, you've just
Hmm.
watched enough fights. There are two types of people. One, like when Bilal Muhammad hit Leon Edwards, he didn't think, "Oh fuck, I hit him. I should hit him more." He thought, "Oh fuck, he is now concerned I've hit him. I'm on the motherfucking hips." And like how Curtis is a lifelong wrestler, and somewhere in his DNA is like, "I punched him. I should punch again." Oh fuck, I'm asleep now. Like no, dude, just do the thing that got you here. Like literally, I remember interviewing Curtis in like Tennessee or some shit, one of these dog shit ass cards, and him being like, I don't care if y'all think I'm boring. I don't give a shit if you think I'm boring because they can't
Remember
stop my
that?
takedowns. Where the fuck that been lately, bro? Yes, I am super salty that I didn't land over half a takedown from the best wrestler in the division. It's inferior. He didn't even try. If Tom stuffed it, cool. Man's got super quick, got good hips. Great. I would have learned something more about Tom Aspinall, and I'd be like, hey, chalk it up. Tom Aspinall, great defensive wrestler. Instead, Curtis lost the same way he has lost the last 4 times. Like, the definition of insanity is doing the same shit and expecting a different result. It's the biggest moment of your life, and you do that? Come on, bro. Oh,
I pulled this comment for a reason.
I know. I know you did. No, you did. Yes. Can't imagine that. Like, his team has to be so upset. Hey, buddy, we talked about this.
I mean, I think
Didn't really stick to the game plan. Can you imagine if Dana
week
liked
two.
Curtis? Do you remember Dana just being like, Kane didn't stick to the game plan?
Oh.
He's got a lifetime of highlights of Curtis not sticking to the game plan. Damn it. Curtis did it again. I don't know. Junior's our new champion somehow.
all right, and our last super chat before we get out of here.
The bad guy. Cop tried to do the Alex Pereira waving off the referee from stopping the fight and then didn't throw a strike for a minute. It was funny. I said it would be hilarious if he just deaded him right after that, but he didn't. And props to Bilal. He said yes to every fight in his post-fight press conference. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys. No, but here is actually the thing. every champion when they get the belt says they're going to be that type of champion, and then you
No.
get three fights in, and you're just like, oh, actually, nah. Like, there's money to be made, and I'm not that type of guy. Like, every champion is, I'm gonna uphold the sanctity of this division, and I am going to defend the title against the best and most deserving contender. And then they don't. So, bullshit.
So we're clear. The literal moment Leon became champion, he was like, "Man, I ain't fighting any of these fuckers. Where's Connor at?" His specific quote was like, "Why should I fight Belal? I had to wait for 8 years to get one. Why should I fight Belal?" Like, that man was shameless. I respected it, honestly.
I actually think Taporia was worse. Like, he was the worst offender. He was like, "Here's a list of the top 10. So. I don't want any of them. I don't want any of these top 10 guys. Give me anybody."
All these guys lost to Volk. I just killed Volk. Why would I fight any of them? No. Nope.
Yeah, but listen, if Belal goes out there and is just like, yeah, Shavkat's next, whoever is after that is next, like, great. I love that. That's fantastic. I just it likely will not play out that way. But hope it does.
Hey, Mike, are you kind of bummed out that Belal didn't embarrass himself in the post-fight interview?
No, I'm actually like happy. I'm happy. I was like, dude, just don't ruin it by calling out Connor. And then, because like I immediately was like, he's got to do the thing where he does the wrong thing, and he was gonna do a Joaquin Buckley, and it was just gonna be like, oh god, like, please don't do this.
For he at least could get Connor, like, theoretically, he has something that Connor at least might want.
Yeah, but Connor makes potentially, but even it was all good. And then there was a moment where I was like, all right, post-fight interview's over. This is real good. And then he chased DC down and got the mic back. And I'm like, oh, God, please don't do it. Please don't do it. And then he dropped see, DC, say my hands are like Canelo. Say my hands are like Canelo, which I thought was kind of funny. But, yeah, he did everything right. He did everything right.
I don't find Belal as annoying as the rest of the internet and everybody else in the universe. I'm kind of okay with Belal.
I was great tonight.
I was really hoping.
I don't even mean just tonight. I was good with all week. I'm good with the stupid, like, I'm second behind GSP stuff. That's fine.
I can't abide that. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. If in your wildest fantasies you're going to win a decision, I think that's, like, funny. And the rest of that's fine. Being like, I can't. You got to be, if you're going to do that, you got to be more tongue-in-cheek. You got to be a Chael Sonnen level of, he was feeding a carrot to the bus. Not like, I am the second greatest welterweight of all time. Like, buddy, I don't think you're in the top 5 with the win over Leon. Welterweight is a historically unbelievable division. So you're just a lunatic by saying this. If you're going to do it, sell the joke better. But I thought all this was perfect.
But it gets people so mad. That's why it's great.
Engagement.
It didn't get me mad. It just got me exasperated. Like,
that's you. But there are people who are actively mad at him, which I love. I enjoy that.
People, you gotta get touch grass. That being said, I do love the pettiness post Leon of like, I will give Leon a rematch in 3 years the same way he made.
That was excellent.
I respect the shit out of that petty.
Well, that was awesome.
He has a very strong point on the idea that Leon was denied the shot for so long, and then the moment he's in the chair, he's like, nah, F you, you're not getting it.
I'm not doing that.
Good for Belal for saying that.
That's what happens at welterweight, man. Remember when Tyron Woodley won the belt? Tyron Woodley wins the belt. Stephen Thompson is sitting there like, all right, man, looks like we're going to fight. He goes, nah, I'm going to fight either GSP or Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
He's on the desk asking him.
Like, hey, like, we're going to do it. Like, I mean, I guess, but like, I'm kind of into this GSP thing. Nick Diaz seems fun. Or maybe Diaz. It was Nate, actually. It was Nate. I was there in that room. I was like, this is fucking unbelievable.
Once you get the belt, the opportunities to make money are just too tempting. I get it. Just do that.
If he goes out and beats Shavkat, then go call for Connor. Call for whatever you want, man. Like, go get it.
No, he's
so
going
I think
up.
All of us will pick Shavkat to beat him.
No, didn't you listen to him? Then it will just be the next welterweight contender. That is the Belal Muhammad promise. He has said that this is how it will go.
It'll be Shavkat, then Ian Gary,
Yeah.
and then maybe he goes up and fights DDP Izzy. Who knows?
If he beats Shavkat, like let's say he does, over under 1.5 more title defenses if he beats Shavkat.
At his age?
What do you mean? How
Yeah,
much?
at his like if he beats Shavkat, will he successfully defend his belt twice?
Just
more?
in general. You're not even
Just
saying
in
like
general. No, not probably just in general. If he beats Shavkat, will he get to 3 title defenses total?
give me a list of people who would be next, right? What is it? Ian Gary? Who else is coming
Ian
for him?
Gary's certainly in there. Jack Della is certainly in there.
Oh yeah, Jack Della.
I guess technically
see
Usman's now back in line.
I could see, yeah, I was gonna say I could see Usman back in
on
there.
the
I could see
ESPN
Colby
post
back
show,
in there now.
On the ESPN post show, they were selling Usman hard.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like they were like, no,
That makes sense.
It's Usman. They were like, skip over Shavkat. Usman's the guy. I was like,
I think it would be
I will
terrible, but that
lose my
does make sense
friggin'
in a
mind.
specific way. Like Usman, they can juice that pig a little bit more, and they can run Shavkat versus Ian. I could see him doing it. I would think it's bad, but
It would
I
be
understand
horrible.
how that works.
He's lost 3 in a row. He's lost 3 fights
Yeah,
in a
but
row.
one of them was a middleweight. It's fine.
he can't,
Dude, he got
Alexander
knocked- he got
Volkanovski's
knocked-
lost 3 in a row, and he's going to get a featherweight title shot. It's fine.
He's lost 2 in a row. Oh yeah, that's right, 3 in a row.
He's lost 3 in a row, buddy.
2 violent knockouts. Too.
I'm gonna say over. I think over. I think he
If
would
he beat
have
Shavkat, it's over.
If you beat Shavkat, you could sell me on it. My issue is he is old, so I don't know how long that gets to live.
I think he'd have a little bit like
an Gary.
I think he'd have a little bit like an Aljo run. It'd be like to me it feels very opponent dependent, like he doesn't feel like the guy who I'm like, this is going to be the long reigning champion, nor does he feel like the guy who's just like, yeah, you got this belt and the next time you step in the cage you're losing it. He kind of feels in that middle territory where I'm like, depending on how the opponents break out, like, yeah, I could see it. I think he could beat Ian Gary. I definitely think he could beat Ian Gary.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last thing I'll say about this in the Usman thing, just win one fight, man. I don't care if you fight Wonder Boy and win. Like, just win a fight, and then you can have a title shot. Like,
if he wins the fight, he's 100% getting a title shot.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'd rather see Shavkat get the fight, and they do Usman versus Ian Gary. And if he beats Ian Gary, then he gets title shot. Like, that's the fight to make for Kamaru Usman. It's not giving
Usman
him
Wonder
title
Boy,
shot.
and then Usman can get a title shot anyway. Because who cares?
I'm cool with that too. I'm fine with that too. Those two dudes have never fought each other. Like that works. I'm okay with
Or
that.
if somehow Thompson wins, give him a title shot. Who cares? It's fine. Whatever.
Sure.
It's Belal. No
Okay.
one's going to be excited about whoever he's fighting.
I mean, we already saw that fight though. Do you ever want to see that again though?
Look, I don't.
You guys
You're
fight each other.
actually, you're 100% correct.
So, okay, hit the music. The sun's about to come up here, and
Man,
ATL.
shout out to whoever is thinking. Oh, keep going. That Hamzat Chimaev's won fighting again and making welterweight again. Belal isn't going to ragdoll Chimaev. Yeah, because he's never going to fight.
yeah, because Chimaev's a middleweight, anyways,
Yeah.
and
He's
yeah,
a
he
middleweight
doesn't
who
fight.
doesn't compete. Sure, that's not going to happen.
Yep. Well, what is going to happen is that AK and I will be back in about 5 hours and 18 minutes to do some matchmaking. So join us for that. We'll discuss what is next for Belal. We'll discuss what is next for Leon Edwards. Where does he go from here? He's going to have to fight somebody. We'll discuss what's next for Tom Aspinall. AK and I have already made an executive decision. We will not discuss what is next for Curtis Blades. We'll move on. We'll talk about Paddy. We'll talk about Arnold Allen. We'll talk about Gregory Rodriguez. Sky's the limit. It's going to be a hell of a week, everybody. And then it's on the road to UFC Abu Dhabi, which is a slapper of a fight card. So for Jed, Casey, New York Rick, I am Mike Heck. Appreciate you. Get some sleep, you filthy animals. Good night, everybody.
I want Curtis to go to PFL. Let Curtis win something. Like, be the Phil Davis of PFL, Curtis Blades. Love y'all.
Welcome to the Belal era.